Hello everyone. In the last lecture we discussed about the issue of externalities, and there we talked about how to find solution for externalities. So, there we talked about different approaches like 5 standard approaches for internalizing the externalities, so that we can avoid the problem of externalities and inefficiencies can be avoided. So, the first approaches that we talked about is the private bargaining and negotiations, right. And in private bargaining and negotiations, we gave emphasis that without, even though the government is not interfering in the inefficient market, still we can have an inefficient market, provided we will be having, if we will be having the private bargaining systems. So, let us say there are two parties are there, and one party is actually creating some kind of externalities and others is being adversely affected by it. So, if it is so, now both the parties, both the private parties, they can come together, negotiate and bargain, and they can have their they can actually avoid these externalities. So, in this context we do have an established theory which is known as the Coase theorem. And the second thing that we discussed, that another approach for internalizing the externalities is legal status and procedures, or legal rules and procedures. So, there we talked about if the initial assignments or initial property rights are well defined, then this problem of externalities can be avoided. So, in this regard we need to discuss about what is the property rights and what is well defined property rights, and so that in the presence of well defined property rights the problem of externalities can be solved. So, based on these two different approaches on how to internalize the externalities, we will be now today discuss what is the property rights and what is the Coase theorem. So, broadly we will be saying that we will be discussing the Coase theorem and the property rights, and how this Coase theorem can be an instrument in internalizing the externalities. So, the contents that we will be discussing in this lecture is what is the property rights and what is the well defined property rights, what are the different types of property rights, and then we will be discussing what are the properties of property rights and what is optimal optimal externalities. Then it will be followed by the Coase theorem and property right, and at last we will be talking about some of the limitations of this Coase theorem in solving the externality problem. So, let us start with the definition of the property rights itself. So, what is the meaning of this property right? So, we can say this property right is a kind of norm, a kind of guideline, a norm or regulations or a set of rules, so that everyone obeys that particular rule. So, broadly you can say that property rights is a set of entitlements, and because of these entitlements, the owners they will be having some kind of privileges and some obligations as well, so far the use of resources or use of assets are concerned. So, we can say that here in property rights we are emphasizing two aspects, that property rights are the entitlements, first thing. So, what you can say that the very features of this property right is that we will be having a kind of entitlements, or it is a set of entitlements, and because of these entitlements we will be able to define the owner's privileges as well as obligations. So far the use of resources or use of the assets is concerned, right. And moreover, because of this property right, we can have exclusive authority to determine how resources is used and whether the resources is owned by the government body or by some private individuals or groups. So, that is how you can say that when a person or a group or a society even is having a property right, so they do have this exclusive authority to that property right or to that particular resources or assets, and because of which they can determine how this particular resource or particular assets is going to be used. And moreover, this is one of this property right or exclusive authority is one of the fundamental attributes of economic good. So, we can say that in defining the economic goods also we are using this very features, that is the property right. So, after understanding what is property right, we can discuss about what kind of property rights are discussed in literature. So, the first one that we are discussing is public property right. So, what is the public property right? So, obviously here the ownership right is held by the public itself. So, that means it is the government one. So, so broadly you can say that if the resource or a particular asset is owned by the government itself or public in a broad view, then we can say the agent who determines its use has to operate under a set of rules that are again determined. So, the first kind of property right we are talking about public property right. So, here resources are owned by the government or the public itself. And the second kind of property right is the private property right. So, here the right to use this property or resources is given or is bestowed on the private individuals itself. So, individuals do have this ownership right, private individuals, right. So, when they are having this private individual rights or property rights, so they do have this exclusive right to the services of the resources. So, what is exclusive right? So, they do have it depends that how they will be going to use these resources. They can get all the benefits out of the use of their resources. So, when you are talking about this private property right, let us say whatever the benefits they are getting out of a particular building, right. So, and they do have this property right. So, in this case this particular building they do have right to rent and get the benefits, rented amount, or they can use for their own accommodations and live over there, and they can also sell or donate as a gift to somebody, right. So, this is how you can say if a particular property is having its ownership or property right is held by the private individual itself. So, this is the way the services and the private person they can get the services out of the particular resource or particular assets. And the third category of property right is the common or collective property right. So, what is the common or collective property right? So, in the first case public property right, here the resources are owned by the government itself, and the government determines the rules how to use and what kind of uses it can have. And similarly, in case of private property right, the right or ownership is held by the private body itself, private individuals or private groups. But in case of the common property or collective property rights, so here the property right is held by group of individuals or groups in common. So, maybe a particular town or particular village, and that is why this is also known as the common property, right. And here by getting this right, collective property right, so here the particular asset or resource are jointly owned, and the access, use and exclusion are controlled by joint decisions only, because the property right is held by a particular group of persons or particular individuals in common. So, that means they may belong to a particular group, particular sections of the society, like your village communities, right. So, so how they are going to use this particular property, it depends upon the joint decisions. So, this is how broadly we are saying the different types of property rights, and based on these property rights the economic goods would be different. So, now after understanding the very definition of the property right, let us talk about what are the characteristics of the property right itself. So, the first characteristics that we need to cite is the property of exclusivity. So, what is exclusivity? What is the meaning of this exclusivity? So, it states that whatever the benefits and whatever the costs that can be generated from a particular asset or resource which is owned by someone, then these benefits and costs will be received by the owner itself. So, we can say that exclusivity states that all the benefits and costs, if the owner is having the property right over the resources or assets, they can be accrued to the owner and to the owner only, no one else. Only the owner can get the all the benefits and all the costs of having this particular resource if he or she is having this property right. And the second property of this property right is transferability. So, what is the meaning of transferability? That means, if you are having the property right, you do have the freedom to transfer the ownership right of this particular property in discussions. So, this transferability can be discussed as that the holder of the resource who enjoy the property right, they can also enjoy the privilege of transferring. They do have privilege that how they are going to deal with this property. They can, if they wish, they can transfer from one generation to another generation, or they can donate to some third party, they can sell to the third party as well. And this is through the voluntary exchange. So, another characteristics of this property right is enforceability. So, what is enforceability? That if someone is having the property right on a particular resource or a particular asset, then the others cannot encroach on that particular property. So, that means this having this property right gives a kind of security over the resources or assets. So, in case of this enforceability, the property right should be secured for involuntary seizure and encroachment. No one can encroach, no one can seize if you are having the property right over your resources or on your asset. And the last characteristics of this property right is comprehensibility. So, that means it must be well defined, right? Who is owning the property, whether it is owned by the private persons, whether it is owned by the public authority or government, whether it is owned by collectively, that is a group of persons or group of individuals, they are having this right, user's right or property right on this particular resources or the asset in questions. So, this is how these characteristics helps us defining the economic good. So, now let us discuss about what is the optimal externalities. In the last class, we talked about what is externality and what are the types of externality. Now, we will be having another concept on externality before understanding the Coase theorem. So, what is this optimal externalities? This optimal externality can be understood by the help of this marginal net private benefit concept and marginal external cost concept. So, what is this marginal net private benefit? So, now let us say obviously when the farm is producing, so this pollution, it is treated as an externality, and this pollution or externality is a byproduct of the output that the farm is producing. So, now the farm is the polluter itself. So, when the farm is a polluter here, then in this case the farm will be incurring costs when it undertakes or produces the output, and as a result it will also be producing the pollution or externalities, right. So, what is the cost here that the farm is bearing? that is the cost that the firm is incurring towards the productions, right. So, after production obviously the firm is selling its output and getting the revenue. Okay. So, now the firm is getting the cost in terms of cost of productions out of his production itself, and the second thing, the firm is receiving benefits in terms of revenue after selling the products, right. And we also know that when the firm is producing its products, it is also giving rise to a kind of externality which is known as the pollution, but this pollution cost the firm is not including in its cost of production. Okay. So, now for this firm, what is the net private benefit? So, we can find this net private benefit by drawing a difference between total revenue and total cost. So, what is the total revenue the firm is getting? It is the revenue after selling its products, and what is the total cost the firm is getting? So, that is only the cost of productions, not he is not including the pollution cost. So, that is why it is known as the private net private benefit. But when this pollution cost or externality cost is added, it is known as the social cost itself, right. But here we are only concerned about the private benefits and private costs. That is why we have not taken into account this pollution, because pollution is an external cost or social cost, right. So, the net private benefit is nothing but your total revenue that the firm is getting, and what is the total cost the firm is incurring in its production process, right. So, now we can say that this marginal net private benefit, right. So, that can be defined as the extra net benefit the firm is getting by changing one unit of its production. So, that means if the firm is earlier producing 20 units of output and he is getting and it is getting the benefit, let us say, of 2000 crores of rupees, right. Now, when one more unit is produced, right. So, what will be the change in the benefit from 2000 crores of rupees to 2.1 crores of rupees or likewise, right. So, here marginal net private benefit is the extra benefit that the firm is getting from its production by changing only one unit of output, right. So, this is how the first concept, that is marginal net private benefit, we are finding. So, the second concept that we need to discuss for optimal externality is the marginal external cost. So, what is the marginal external cost? And you understand that marginal is always associated with just one extra unit of productions, right. So, in this case of marginal external cost, we can define that this is the value of extra damages or extra cost that is done by the firm itself in terms of pollutions, right, by increasing its production by 1 unit. Okay. So, when the firm is increasing its production by 1 unit, so what is the value of this extra damage? That is because of the pollution itself. Okay. So, now you understood what is marginal net private benefit and what is marginal external cost itself. So, after understanding these two concepts, now we can have this graphical representation of this marginal net private benefit and marginal external cost. So, how to find this marginal net private benefit? So, in our externality discussions, we knew that the particular firm is a price taker, not a price maker. So, therefore, whatever the price is established for a particular product in a industry, the same price it will be taken by the firm itself. So, the same price will be charged by this firm itself. So, here in the x axis we are representing this output level or economic activity by the firm itself, right. And in the right hand side, in the vertical axis we are representing this price and cost. So, as you know that the firm is a price taker, so price is already decided and this is P. So, now how the firm is going to decide what much of output to produce? It depends upon the marginal cost itself. And when marginal cost curve is intersecting the price line, so there it is deciding the equilibrium level and equilibrium output would be Q pi, right. So, that means in a perfectly competitive market, a particular firm will be producing this Q pi level of output. And now our task is to find out what is the marginal net private benefit. We can derive this marginal net private benefit from this curve itself. So, what is this? This is your price line and this is your marginal cost, right. So, what is the benefit that the firm will be getting when it will be producing 1 unit of output, 2 unit of output and likewise up to Q pi level of output. So, the firm will be getting benefit. Why it will be getting benefit? Because if the firm produces 1 unit of output at this point, then at this price level OP, he will be getting this much of revenue and only this much of cost, right. So, in a similar logic, when the firm is continuing with increasing its production level, then these lines would be the profit lines or the benefit areas. So, these area are the benefit or the profit areas. So, the same from these we can actually find out what is the marginal profit curve for this particular firm. How to find? So, at this 0 output, when output is 0, profit is obviously 0. When it is producing the first unit, then this is the one. So, we can just define the level of output here, right. And we know that this profit is nothing but price minus marginal cost. So, at this point Q pi level of this point, the firm is getting the maximum profits. At this point it is 0 profit, right. So, we are taking this 0 and the maximum profit and we are drawing a line, right. Then this curve is right now known as the marginal profit curve, which is defined by price minus marginal cost, right. And this is also known as the marginal net private benefit, because benefit is synonymous to profit here we are assuming, right. So, how to define this marginal profit curve? Marginal profit curve is the extra profit that is made by the firm itself by expanding its output by 1 unit only. So, that is how we are defining the marginal profit curve. Okay. So, now based on this understanding, now we will be saying what is the total profit? So, total profit area, total profit is the area under this marginal profit curve. So, now what will be the total profit? So, this will be the total profit. Okay. It is area under this marginal profit curve. And this total profit, it will be maximized, right, when the marginal profit, because this is marginal profit and this is total profit, right, and summation of all marginals are the totals, right. That is why we are saying it is the total profit area. So, area under the marginal profit curve is your total profit. So, total profit is maximized when your marginal profit is 0. So, at this point your marginal profit becomes 0, and again this marginal profit curve is equivalent to your net marginal net private benefit. So, similarly now let us discuss about the marginal external cost. So, what is marginal external cost? The additional cost or extra damaged, right, that is caused to the environment by increasing the output by this farm by 1 unit. If the farm is increasing its output by 1 more unit, right, and because of which the environment is facing some damages, right, and this damage cost is known as the marginal external cost. So, now we can say that this marginal external cost is related to the unit of output produced. That means, marginal external cost is obviously a function of output that the farm is producing. So, that means, when your output level is increased, the external marginal external cost is also increasing, right. So, that is why this f is an increasing functions. And moreover, when the output or economic activity is very large, right, the marginal external cost will be large also. So, that means, the marginal external costs are rises in proportion to the level of activity or level of output, right. So, based on this understanding, now we will be saying that marginal external cost, it will be linear functions. What will be its starting point? Obviously, it will be starting from the origin itself, because when there is no economic activity, the externality would be 0. So, based on this understanding, we can draw the marginal external cost. This is your output or economic activity, price or cost. So, your marginal external cost is, its origin is 0, right. This is marginal external cost. Okay. So, that is how we are defining this marginal external cost and marginal net private benefit. So, now let us understand what is optimal externality or optimal level of externality. And we have already discussed that we can decide this optimal level of externalities by taking into account marginal external cost concept and marginal net private benefit concept. So, how to find this optimal externality? So, now we can say we know what will be graphically, we can represent this, right. So, this is your output already we know, and this is your price or cost and also the benefits. Okay. And you have already known how to find out the marginal net private benefit. This is your marginal net private benefit, and how to draw the marginal external cost. This is your marginal external cost, right. Okay. So, this is 0, this is marginal net private benefit, this is marginal external cost curve. Okay. So, now let us suppose say this area is denoted as A, this area is B, this area is this. When the marginal external cost is intersecting the marginal net private benefit, this intersection point, it is dividing this total triangle into two parts. This area is B and this area is, let us say, C. This level is known as the Q max or Q pi, okay, and this area is known as Q star. Okay. And based on this drawing, now we can say both these curves, marginal net private curve and marginal externality curve, they are the marginal curves, right. And the area under this marginal net private benefit is the polluter's total net private benefit. This is how we are saying the polluter firm or the polluting firm, it will be getting this level O, this one and this one area of benefit by expanding its output. And moreover, the area under this marginal external cost, this from point this to this to this, it is the total external cost that the society is receiving because of the firm's production. So, in this case, what is the objective of the society? Obviously, to maximize the benefits and costs, right. So, what is the private benefit? This area is the private benefit, right, and this area is the social cost. So, if the producer is producing at this level of output, right, that is the intersection point of marginal external cost and marginal net private benefit, then the benefit would be this much only A area, and the cost would be this area. Okay. So, that means benefit is definitely larger than the cost incurred, right. And when benefits is larger than cost, it is the highest one, then obviously this corresponding to this Q star, that is the output, this is the optimal level of output that the firm must produce, right. So, how to define this optimal level of pollutions? Because so here we are talking about the output as well as pollution, because the optimal level of pollution is the one that corresponds to the optimal level of activity, right. So, what is the optimal level of activity? So, if it is continuing till this Q star of output. So, that is the activity level would be till this point, B point. Okay. So, if the firm is not sticking at this Q star level of output, rather it needs to expand its production till this Q pi level of output, then what will be the total external cost? So, the total external cost obviously would be B area plus C area plus D area. B plus C plus D will be the total external cost. And likewise, what will be the marginal net private benefit? So, marginal net private benefit would be this area, A area plus B area plus C area, area under this marginal net private benefit. Okay. So, now what is the net social benefit? That is the marginal net private benefit minus total external cost. So, this area is the A minus D area, right. So, we are getting this net social benefit A minus D area, right, this area minus this area when the firm is producing at Q pi level of output. but if the firm is producing at Q star level of output, then the total benefit is A, right. Because see this is the at this level of output, the marginal net private benefit is A plus B, right. Marginal external cost is B only. So, A plus B is the total benefit. What is the total cost? B. So, A plus B minus B is A. So, that means the social benefit we are getting is A, but in this case when the output or the firm is expanding its production up to Q pi, then the net social benefit is A minus D. So, among these two, so here we are getting this net social benefit if the firm is producing at Q star, and we are getting this net social private net social benefit if the firm is producing at Q pi. So, obviously, you will be saying that this A area is greater than this A minus D area. That means, the net social benefit is the highest one if the firm is going to produce at this point and not at this point. Okay. And we know that at this point marginal net private benefit is intersecting the marginal external cost. So, equating, and this marginal net private benefit is defined by price minus marginal cost, that we have already discussed. So, now we can say because they are equivalent is there. So, that is why you can say this price minus marginal cost is equal to marginal external cost, right. So, what will be the price? Price is now marginal cost plus marginal external cost, which is known as the marginal social cost. And when this condition is established, that means price is equivalent to your marginal social cost, then you are saying the conditions for the Pareto optimality has been established. So, by this way you can internalize your externality if you are producing the optimal level of externality, right. So, in the next class we will be discussing the next portion, the continuing portion of this particular lecture. We will be discussing what is the Coase theorem in this context and how these property rights are taken into account in explaining this bargaining. Thank you very much.